Hi, my name's Cynthia Hankins, and for my business speech, I'm gonna talk about opening an animal shelter. My dream for years has been to open an animal shelter for animals. I have loved animals since the day I was born. I really want to make a difference in the world, and I think saving someone that can't defend themselves is the thing to do. It is important to me because I don't think that animals should suffer no matter how mean they are. People should take a step back and ask, who has made the animal this way? In my eyes, animals are like children. You raise a child. How you raise that child shows in the long run. I feel an animal is the exact same way. I think that starting a shelter is a great idea, especially here in the southwest Iowa area, because the strays and animals that no longer have a place to go would have a place to go. The only places they can go now are to the vet clinics, and then after so many days, they're eventually euthanized. So once they get put in there, they really don't have a fighting chance. Why start an animal shelter? Obviously, it's to save the animals in need, the ones that are on the streets that have no food, no water, no shelter, or the animals that have a shelter and get treated and mistreated and abused day in and day out. That's what an animal shelter is for. How to start an animal shelter? There are lots of steps to starting an animal shelter. Starting an animal shelter is time consuming and it is very, very hard work. I have started researching it now because I eventually would like to start one. In order to start a shelter, you would really need to decide what type of animals you would take. Would you just take cats, dogs, household animals, or would you take farm animals? I would take both household and farm as of right now. It could change in the long run, my decision, but as of right now, I would want to take both farm and house animals. No exotic animals because they have stores and stuff for those animals. Volunteers for a shelter would be a requirement because you got to have people help, and that I don't think would be very hard around this area because there's a lot of kids that like to do that. Location, location, location. Finding the right building that will house the animals is important, and it can be tricky. You may have to have a building built if you have the funding for it, or if you could find one that's perfect, it would work out great. Just one second. Also, when choosing the location, you would have to make sure that the zones are regulated. So you would have to make sure that like city limits won't allow you probably to have farm animals. So you would have to make sure you're out of city limits in order to have the farm animals. You just want to make sure your zones are all regulated, or else you could get into some trouble with that. You would want to make sure that the facility had certain sections for the animals. I wouldn't want my animals, my cats, my dogs, all that stuff mixed up because they don't get along. And like I said, I would have to have the farm ground or just pasture, whatever. To make a shelter work, you would need to get noticed and make people aware that you're taking in animals. You would want to set up flyers at local businesses, hand out brochures, or even have a little stand at local business with brochures with information about your shelter and what you will be doing. You would definitely want to make sure everything is legal, so you need to check and make sure that you didn't need any licenses, and if you did, you want to get licensed or get your certification. Making things legal is very important. You like to be formal. You would want release forms because you wouldn't want someone coming in and saying, "Oh, they stole my dog." You'd want a release form with all the information on the day they got admitted to the facility, or vice versa, the day a dog got adopted out, because you don't want someone coming back and trying to sue you. So like I said, release forms are important. Fundraising and donations are also important. Anything helps. It is important to have both those. So you probably want to hire somebody to do your commercialing. That's probably not the right word, but to advertise for you. Most shelters are nonprofit, which means they get money to keep the place going, and they don't usually make a profit for doing it. It is very important to have vet assistance. You want to have a vet on hand, or you could have multiple if one can't be there enough. When I looked into doing this, I was told to talk to my local vets and see if any of them would like to volunteer or help out with the cause. Keeping records of the money is also very important because they don't want you embezzling or stealing. So you need to make sure you know where your money is going, and you need to make sure that you write it down. Insurance is also important because it keeps you covered and the premises covered. All the animals on it, all the people that come on and off. If a person's to get bit, you want to make sure you're covered. Starting a shelter is hard and time consuming, but it is worth it. There are laws and regulations that have to be followed, but it can all be done with the right team working towards the end goal. Anything is possible. It is important to save something if you can. Make the choice to adopt a dog and not buy a new one. I want and will eventually open my own shelter. I have watched so many shows where the animals suffer, and it breaks my heart every time. This is a business speech, and I'm telling you that this will be a business one day. I'm going to try and attach a file. There was a short little story that I didn't have on Facebook, but someone posted it. It's off of an animal page, and I copied it, and I'm going to attach it into a file so you guys can all read it. It's about dogs going to a shelter. It's from a guy's point of view that works in a shelter, and I just want you guys to read it. It will probably make you cry, but I think it's important for people to know about it. I really just want to make a difference and save animals. I personally love animal shelters. I adopted my dog from an animal shelter, and I feel that people should pay more attention. I don't think that animal shelters get the advertisement that they deserve. They make the dogs look wounded and helpless, and not all the dogs are like that. They just want a home. That's all they want, is a home. I will eventually have an animal shelter. It may not be in Southwest Iowa, but I will eventually have an animal shelter. And this is my business speech.